Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel. With my coffee, this time we have a little Yeti mug. I think I picked this up while I was in Gatlinburg. It was just really cute and I thought it would be great for the fall winter season, and we have had some frigid temperatures here, but I am staying cozy in my sweatshirt and my coffee and all of that sort of fun stuff, and blankets and fuzzy socks and cozy. But we are talking about books, and we are diving into Return of the Martial Messiah, book number 3 by ToraAKR. Now, I ran across, I think it was the first book, potentially on NetGalley, and I loved it. So I immediately found book number 2 and then dove into, I found ToraAKR's Patreon, found out book number 3 and number 4 were both available on there as well. Now, I don't see, at least on Goodreads, any reviews or even a page for book number 4 yet, but I can guarantee it exists because I am already currently listening to the audiobook for it. But let's dive into Return of the Martial Messiah, book number 3. Zion Line, an endless world where survival and fortune are far from guaranteed. For Rain Kong Ru, it's a battlefield that spans realities, where every gain edges him closer to averting a grim fate for not only himself, but all of humanity. The skies across two worlds darken, casting shadows with claws all to Krongate. With claws all to Krongate. I don't know. Bloodied but unbowed, gathers alliances to reclaim their dominance and silence the man named Alaric for good. From the very peak of Earth's elites, an ancient and formidable threat, the Phoenix clan, and thanks to Rain, its sights now wholly set upon Zion Line, twisting the path he knew into an uncertain future. He wouldn't have it any other way. For pressure is the forge of Rain's evolution, fueling each stop down his martial path, transforming him into a sword that they'll regret grasping. For too many of his enemies' dismay, he has no intention of fighting alone. Rain is gathering legends from the past to forge an army of his own, by arming them with the combat arts of a lost future. He's preparing to create a guild unlike anything Earth or Vautier has ever witnessed. Together, they will charge forward on an all-new adventure, ready to rattle the delicate mentalities of those who must not be offended. Because at this point, what's one or two more people trying to kill him? What you can expect in Martial. High stakes. A VR MMO adventure where the danger grips you by the collar and doesn't let you go. Complex, deep, lit RPG, mechanics, and multiple layers of magical systems that don't stop just because you're back on Earth. So, I really have, just each time I pick up one of these books, it is just so engrossing, and I fly through it so incredibly fast. I am solidly sold on this series for, I don't know, it's one of the more captivating lit RPGs that I've ever delved into. And I kind of have gravitated towards it like I used to watch Sword Art Online. There was just something very cool about it. Now in Sword Art, they couldn't log out and live their in their real life lives. They could only live it in, Sword Art. Well, in Martial Messiah, Rain Kong Ru has learned. Okay, so if y'all didn't watch the other episodes about the other books in this series, let me recap just a bit. Rain awakens, and he realizes he is now in what he perceives to be the past. He almost gets a do-over at life. He has spent the past, I want to say something like 30 years inside Zion Line, where he has been forged to be a fighter and a soldier. However, that first time through, he was more like a grunt for a company called Krongate. He never really had enough, and they always kept him almost on a leash because also following a carrot on a stick. Success was just far enough that he was never really going to be able to attain it. Well, when he wakes up in this kind of redoing of the past, very Groundhog's Day like, he realizes he has a chance to change things for everyone. Now, in the first book, we saw him starting to level up his online character, be one of the first few people inside Zion Line, really establishing himself as a big-time player, setting some major milestones, and joining some really cool quests. In the second book, we see him continuing that and also gathering a couple people through his life that he knew of online in the previous time he's been through this, who were formidable players. But this time that he gets control, he is going to have the opportunity to guide and hopefully lead them in their own guild. Now, a guild's not yet been created, but he is creating a group of these adventurers. And so he's got his brother, his real life brother, who's in the game as well. And he has a girl that he had a crush on, as well as several other characters that maybe he wasn't allied with the first time, but now he's actually finding that if he allies with them, that now they'll be fighting with him instead of perhaps against him, and he can leverage that. Now, what we also see as we progress through this is, because he's kind of been on the forefront of establishing himself, he's really amassing quite a bit of wealth. He buys him a house, some security. He gets his hands on some things he probably shouldn't get his hands on. And he's able to start making alliances even outside of the game that are going to be beneficial to him in game as well. So he is shifting the power dynamics, not only in real life, but also in Zion Line and Vatier, where in the future, as this game grows, a lot of humanity will end up working and living. And one of the biggest reasons for that is the time dilation. For every 5 minutes in real life, it's 15 minutes or something similar in Zion Line. So and then there are even moments within the game where time dilates even more. So a minute in real life can almost last hours in game. And so it's one of those things where he has to very finely walk a line where he does not break his own mind when he's trying to wrap his brain around these things. So I have just found that I am captivated by all of these things. I will say, as we have progressed into book 3 and now into book 4 for me, which I will not yet review, I'm only going to try to stick to book 3, is I'm seeing that Rain himself is getting quite arrogant and cocky, and I don't know, it feels as though he almost forgets what it's like to be one of those that's just starting out. But taking a step back from that, I understand that he has lived this life and knows what it's going to take to succeed. So he pushes what I would call his disciples, his friends, incredibly hard, to the point of almost breaking on several occasions, because he knows they can take it. Because he also knows that in the future, they're going to put up with worse. They're going to have to confront things that are much, much worse than what he's putting them through. And so I understand both sides of it, but there is some sort of arrogance, almost the fact that almost Rain can't do any wrong. That's I'm not seeing any humbling in him anymore. There's a couple moments where he's in battle or fighting certain enemies where you see him kind of not falter, but almost, question himself just slightly, but then goes right back into this arrogance that I don't find as appealing in a main character as I did when he was kind of, I don't know, I kind of want to call him an underdog, because originally he felt very underdog like, who was going to take this opportunity and run with it. It's kind of like if you had all your knowledge right now of all of the businesses that would succeed, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and you could go back to, let's just say, 1995 or 2000 and invest in those companies. By now, and like, if you went back there and you were able to, maybe, I don't know how old you would have been. If I went back to, let's say, 2000, I would have I would have just been getting out of high school. And so, but even if I had taken some money and started putting it towards, Apple or Google or Microsoft or what have you, if I had started then, now 25 years down the road, I could potentially have invested a substantial amount of money that would have given me quite a substantial portfolio, or, made me quite wealthy. However, I can't do that because I don't think we get to relive life in that way. But that's what I'm seeing in Rain, is that he has had this opportunity. Now, he has taken a completely different path than what he took the first time. But I feel like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like all his leveling and stuff doesn't seem as difficult as, maybe it's because he's done it before. And his body is starting to have some muscle memory, and he's starting to, do what he wants. And he's taken regen, which is, if you don't know what regen is, it's the serum. It's kind of like a super soldier serum a little bit. It turns your body, like your in real life body, into almost like a fighting machine type of body. So that way, his physical in real life strength actually translates into the game. And that means he is better kind of both in and out of game. But I'm still loving it. I didn't find as much progression in the third book. It felt like a whole bunch of action, but not a lot of forward movement, if that makes sense. Rain is kind of establishing himself again by figuring out how he's going to get his foothold into various aspects of, I guess you could say, in real life society. He's buying properties, he's buying equipment, those sorts of things, because he needs this for as he works towards building his guild. Now, I don't know if they're going to be, okay, let me take that back. On his Patreon, or ToraAKR's Patreon, there are multiple chapters you can unlock. If you are a monthly subscriber to the Patreon, I do believe you could continue to read those chapters or even potentially listen to those chapters. I don't know if they're audio or not. All I know is that if you want some of the additional books, like books 3 and 4 for sure, that they are on the Patreon. And I want to say I got the book 3 for maybe $10 or $15, and I know I got book 4 for about $15. I paid for those myself because, again, this is a series I really enjoy. I also wanted the audiobook. My one critique, and I don't really know if this is a big critique, but this is more about the audiobook quality versus the actual writing. I'm not fully invested in these narrators, and they almost feel a little AI generated. They have very little to no inflection and emotion when certain things happen. There are a couple starts and stops that feel disjointed. When you read or listen to an audiobook that's done by a human narrator, and they're able to inflect their voice and make it feel emotional in the ways it should feel emotional, or they're able to build tension with their voice where tension needs to be, I'm missing that in the audiobook. I'm loving the story. I'm still enjoying the story. And I'm trying to remember if it's book 2 or 3 that we find out apparently in the past life that Rain led, that he had a wife. And Mel and the other girl that I'm totally blanking on, Crimson Rain, Crimson something. They both are like, we're kind of jealous because these two girls can hear his thoughts. And actually, we start to discover there is another character who can also hear Rain's in real life thoughts. I'm talking like not in game, when they are logged out and they are face to face in person with the, human being. Mel, this other girl, and this doctor can hear Rain's thoughts. And he is not aware of it. But now, at least Mel, who is the one that Rain has a crush on, she can hear his thoughts. And so she's really worried that if he ever finds out, like, what level of betrayal is he going to feel? So she is terrified. But I am still having such a great time with this series. Like I said, I keep picking these books up. I feel like on the Patreon, I'm seeing more chapters, and it feels as though the chapter numbering from book 3 into book 4 just continues. So like if we ended book 3, let's just say at 110 chapters, which I'm just throwing out a ballpark number. If book 3 ends at 110 chapters, then book 4 picks up at chapter 111. So it picks up immediately after and the story continues. I think the writer just seems to be breaking it up into fairly decent sized palatable chunks for consumption. Now, it does say that book 3, which was Return of the Martial Messiah, book 3 was originally published September 15th of 2025. So it's not been out very long, but book 4 is available if you're ready for it. And it's about 429 pages on the Kindle edition. I had the audiobook, and I want to say it was somewhere, might have been 12 and a half to 13 hours. But just be aware that if you do get the audiobook, you may get some of that coldness from the narrators. I'm not 100% sold on them. I kind of feel like we need to make it feel more personable. I don't know. That's just one of my personal thoughts and critiques after listening to so many audiobooks. That's why I think it's kind of potentially AI generated voices. Is it feels unfeeling, where a physical, like, human narrator would inflect words in scenes and scenarios, I feel like, in more emotional ways. They're emoting, and yet I don't feel like, especially the female voice, they're not emoting very well. They're just about as flat as they can be, and I'm not buying it. But I am buying it because I bought the books. But anyway, with all of that being said, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and liking and subscribing. If you haven't already, I hope you will. I did angle my background just a little bit because I was realizing that the whole head-on thing, my foot kept hitting the camera. So I'm really hoping that this angling will prevent that from happening and we won't see as much shimmying in the camera. Otherwise, I'm going to have to try to rekajigger it again and figure it out. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one. Bye.